The planet Kelvar shivered under the dark shadow of the Zarn dominion. Its cities, once shining with tall glass towers and glowing lights, now lay in ruins. Smoke rose from broken streets, and the air was thick with the smell of fire and metal. The Kelvari people, soft-skinned and fragile, huddled in small shelters trying to hide from the invaders who had come to claim their world. The sound of explosions echoed through the valleys and across the plains. The Kelvari had never known war like this. They were not fighters. Their world had always been peaceful, focused on trade, art, and knowledge. Now all of that was gone. In the central city of Luthra, the Kelvari Council gathered in a tall building that had somehow survived the bombardment. The room was quiet, but the silence was heavy with fear. The council members, small and frail, spoke in hurried whispers. Their eyes darted to the view screens showing the approaching Zarn forces. Ships larger than any Kelvari could imagine hung in the sky, glowing with deadly light. The council knew they could not fight. Not even their best warriors could stand against the Zarn. "We have no choice," said one council member, his voice trembling. "We must send a call for help to the galaxy. There must be anyone who can hear us." A soft hum of agreement filled the room. The Kelvari had always believed in the kindness of other worlds. Surely, they thought, someone would help. They had friends, allies, neighbors in the stars. They had traded knowledge and goods, and they had helped others when they could. Surely someone would hear them now. The council's youngest member, Lyra, stepped forward. Her long fingers shook as she pressed the activation panel. The communication system, old but still working, came to life. Through the clear ether of space, her voice would reach countless worlds. "This is the Kelvar Council. We are under attack by the Zarn Dominion. Our people are weak. We cannot defend ourselves. We ask for aid." Her voice echoed through the room, and then silence followed. She looked around at the other council members. None of them smiled. None of them dared hope. But the call had been sent. It was out in the galaxy now, floating across the dark emptiness toward whoever might hear it. Outside, the Zarn ships drew closer. They moved like predators, slow and certain. The first bombardments began. Buildings collapsed with loud crashes, and the ground trembled beneath the city. Fires erupted in the streets, and screams mixed with the roar of explosions. The Kelvari ran for cover, trying to escape the destruction. Children clung to parents, and parents held their children as tightly as they could. Even from inside the council building, Lyra could see the chaos outside. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had never felt fear like this. She had never felt helpless like this. In space, the distress signal traveled. It crossed millions of light years, moving past neutral planets and busy trade routes. Many species received it and ignored it. Some thought the Kelvari were not worth the effort. Others feared the Zarn and did not want to get involved. In the vast galaxy, help was not always kind. Sometimes it was absent, silent, and cruel. Back on Kelvar, time passed in slow, painful hours. The Zarn did not wait. They landed in smaller pods near the city, their soldiers emerging like shadows with hard armor and strange weapons. The Kelvari could not fight. They tried to hide, but the Zarn found them quickly. The invaders took what they wanted and left destruction in their wake. Every street was a trap. Every building offered only a temporary shelter. Lyra and the council members watched from their high building as the city they loved was torn apart. And then, in the middle of despair, a small blip appeared on the council's communications console. It was not large, not flashy, and not threatening, but it was different. A reply. The council stared at it in disbelief. The message was short, almost curt, but it was clear. Someone had heard them. "We received your signal. We will come," the message read. There was a pause as the council members tried to understand what this meant. Who is it?" Lyra asked, her voice shaking. The reply came again. "Earth, we are coming." The word Earth meant nothing to the Kelvari at first. They had heard stories of strange planets, of worlds where life could survive in extreme conditions, but they had never imagined anyone could travel to their aid so quickly. Still, hope sparked in their hearts. Maybe, just maybe, salvation was on its way. Hours passed. The Zarn soldiers pressed forward. Buildings burned completely, and the streets were rivers of fire and rubble. The Kelvari huddled in whatever remained, praying silently to any power that might listen. And then from the skies above, tiny shapes appeared. At first, they looked like specks of light, moving fast and low. But as they drew closer, the Kelvari could see the outline of ships. They were smaller than the Zarns, dark and strange, with jagged edges that looked dangerous. The ships descended quickly, dropping pods to the surface. Humans emerged. They were tall, strong, and covered in armor that shone under the firelight. Their faces were human, familiar yet fierce. Weapons glinted in their hands, but there was no fear in their eyes. Instead, there was calm and focus and determination. Captain Laura Briggs stepped forward. She was the leader of this human force, and her presence made the Kelvari pause. She did not hesitate. She did not look around in confusion or fear. She gave orders calmly, her voice carrying across the battlefield with authority. Hold this position. Protect the civilians. Do not let them through. The Kelvari had never seen anything like it. The humans moved with precision, covering every street, securing every building, and advancing without hesitation. They were not afraid of the Zarn. They did not flinch at explosions or gunfire. When an Zarn mech stomped toward a group of hiding Kelvari, a human soldier fired a strange weapon, and the machine crumpled as if it had been made of paper. Sergeant Ethan Cole, a soldier with a reputation among his people, led the ground troops. He carried the wounded out of danger, encouraged those who were scared, and never stopped moving. He did not wait for the Kelvari to follow him. He simply acted, and slowly, the Kelvari began to trust him. In the council building, Lyra and the other members watched through broken windows. Their fear mixed with awe. They are not like anyone we have known, one elder whispered. They do not fight for power or conquest. They fight to protect. As night fell, the humans did not stop. Fires still burned in the streets, but the Kelvari could move more freely under their protection. Children were carried out of danger, families reunited, and the worst of the Zarn attacks were pushed back. For the first time in many days, the city was quiet, at least for a moment. Captain Briggs walked among the Kelvari, giving words of reassurance in a language the aliens barely understood. She gestured to the city and the surrounding streets. We will hold them. We will protect your people. You are not alone. The council members tried to comprehend the magnitude of what was happening. They had sent a call to the galaxy, expecting perhaps a fleet from a friendly neighbor or a mercenary who wanted payment. They had expected small help, not an entire human force. The Zarn had expected no resistance. And now, the balance of power had shifted, and hope, fragile and new, began to bloom. Outside the city, the night sky was alive with strange lights. The humans moved in coordinated patterns, their ships hovering just above the surface, weapons glowing, their soldiers in visible shadows in the firelight. The Zarn did not understand what they faced. Their machines were strong, their numbers vast, but they had never seen humans fight before. They had never seen beings who did not fear death, who advanced even when the odds were impossible. Inside the council building, Lyra finally allowed herself to breathe. She looked around at the other council members. They came, she said softly. Earth sent help. We are not alone. The humans had arrived, and with them came a force the galaxy rarely saw. Those who thrived in impossible worlds, those who survived where others failed. The Deathworlders, they called themselves. And for the first time, the Kelvari realized that sometimes help comes from the most dangerous places. As the night deepened, the humans held the line. Fires burned, but they burned around the defenders, not the people. Explosions shook the ground, but the humans advanced, never faltering. The Kelvari had only seen death and destruction, but now they saw courage and life. They had asked the galaxy for help, expecting perhaps pity or aid too late. Instead, they received humans, warriors born of a world that demanded survival. And in that moment, the Kelvari knew that their world might still live. And somewhere above, the stars watched silently as humans, Deathworlders from Earth, stepped into a war they did not seek but had chosen anyway. The galaxy, vast and uncaring, had turned away from Kelvar, but Earth had not. And that small truth, simple and powerful, would echo through the history of the stars forever. The sun rose over Kelvar, but it did little to warm the broken city. The streets were still filled with smoke, and the smell of burned metal and scorched earth lingered everywhere. The Kelvari had never seen a day like this. They walked among rubble, carefully avoiding collapsed buildings and scattered debris. Some carried water for the wounded, while others tried to find food in stores that had survived the fire. Everywhere there were signs of battle, and everywhere the Kelvari could see the humans. The human soldiers moved like shadows among the ruins. They were quiet, precise, and focused. Captain Laura Briggs walked alongside Sergeant Ethan Cole as they surveyed the streets. Her eyes were sharp, scanning every corner, every alley, every possible threat. Ethan carried a small Kelvari child in his arms, the boy's tiny fingers clinging to his armor. "We need to get these civilians to the safe zones," Laura said. "The Zarn will try another attack soon. We hold here, but we can't hold everywhere. Move them fast, keep them covered." Ethan nodded. "I'll take the west sector. You cover the center. We'll meet at the plaza." The Kelvari watched them, unsure how to act. Some wanted to help, but they were weak, and the humans moved too fast, too skilled, too dangerous in the way they protected each other. The Kelvari were used to kindness, not to warriors moving like machines of mercy through fire and death. In the west sector, Ethan led a small group of humans and Kelvari through streets still burning from the previous night's attacks. Broken vehicles blocked their way, but Ethan lifted the children over debris with careful hands. The adults followed, trying to stay close but not slow him down. Every so often a Zarn scout would appear, their armor gleaming in the sunlight. The humans reacted instantly. Laser bolts cut through the air, and the scouts fell before they could even reach the civilians. The children gasped and clung to their parents, their eyes wide with fear and awe. They had never seen anyone fight like this before. The humans did not scream. They did not hesitate. Every move was controlled, deliberate. One human carried 3 small children at once, running through a narrow alley, never tripping, never slowing. When Ethan saw him, he nodded briefly. No words were needed. They all understood the goal: keep the Kelvari alive. Meanwhile, Captain Laura Briggs moved through the center sector. She checked on families hiding in basements and helped elderly Kelvari climb out of collapsed stairwells. She spoke softly but firmly, calming those who panicked. "You're safe now," she told them. "Follow us. We'll take you to the plaza. Stay close." A small group of Kelvari children trailed behind her, holding hands as they moved over rubble. One boy, no older than 10, looked up at Laura with wide eyes. "Why do you fight for us?" he asked, his voice trembling. Laura knelt to meet his gaze. Her armor scratched against the stone as she sat. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said simply. "Because someone has to protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is why we are here." The boy blinked and said nothing, but he held her words in his heart. To him, humans were no longer strange creatures from the stars. They were guardians, strong and fearless and willing to risk everything for him and his people. Back in the west sector, Ethan and his team reached the edge of a collapsed bridge. Across it, more Kelvari waited, trapped on the far side of the city by falling debris and Zarn patrols. Ethan assessed the situation quickly. He placed his hand on a control panel of his small hover vehicle. With a soft hum, the platform rose into the air, lifting children and adults across the gap. The Kelvari clutched each other as the humans worked, holding hands tightly, tears streaming down faces that had seen too much suffering already. The Zarn noticed the human movement immediately. A squad of their soldiers ran toward the hover vehicle, ready to attack. But Ethan did not panic. He raised his weapon and fired in short, controlled bursts. Each Zarn soldier dropped before reaching the platform. His team moved forward, clearing the path as the last Kelvari were lifted to safety. Hours passed like this. Humans ran from one burning street to another, carrying, defending, and fighting. The Kelvari began to whisper to each other. "They are not like any humans we have heard about," one said. "They do not fear death. They do not stop for anything. They fight like the world itself depends on them." In a ruined plaza, Captain Laura Briggs and Sergeant Ethan Cole met with the Kelvari Council. The council had gathered the civilians, and for the first time since the invasion began, there was a moment of peace. Small groups of humans guarded the perimeter, weapons ready, eyes scanning the skies. "We cannot hold the entire city," Laura explained. "The Zarn are too many and their machines are too strong. But we can protect these people. That is our priority. We keep them alive and we can save their culture, their families. That is enough." The council members looked at her, and for the first time hope shone in their eyes. Lyra stepped forward. "We feared all was lost," she said softly. "But you came. You came when no one else would. How can we ever repay you?" Laura shook her head. "No repayment is needed. We fight because it is right. Because someone must protect those who cannot protect themselves." A sudden rumble interrupted them. The ground shook violently as a massive Zarn mech approached the plaza, its armor black and jagged, its weapons glowing with energy. The Kelvari screamed, and humans moved immediately into position. Captain Briggs raised her hand.
Form a line.
Do not let it reach them. Ethan, cover the left flank. I'll handle the center. The humans moved with precision. Laser fire streaked across the air, hitting the mech's armor. Explosions rocked the plaza as the machine fired back, but the humans did not falter. Ethan sprinted along the edge, taking careful shots at the mech's joints, weakening it with small, precise strikes. Other soldiers threw grenades at the machine, each explosion cracking its armor. For the Kelvari, it was terrifying and amazing at the same time. They had never seen beings so determined, so fearless. Even as debris flew and fire raged around them, the humans fought calmly, almost as if they had done this 1,000 times before. Finally, with a coordinated strike, the mech fell, crashing into the plaza with a deafening roar. Dust and smoke filled the air, and the Kelvari blinked, trying to see through the haze. The humans regrouped quickly, checking on each other and the civilians. Not one person had been lost during the attack. The council members stared in disbelief. How is it possible? One whispered. No one could survive that, and yet, they did it. Ethan walked past the council and handed water to a trembling Kelvari woman. You must keep moving, he said gently. The Zarn will regroup, but we will be ready. You must stay strong for your people. As the day passed, more humans arrived from the ships above. They brought supplies, medical kits, and more soldiers to hold positions. The Kelvari began to realize that this was not just a small group of fighters. They were an army, and they had come to stay as long as it took to save lives. At night, the humans set up defensive positions around the plaza. Fires still burned in parts of the city, but under the humans' watch, the Kelvari could sleep at least for a few hours. Captain Briggs and Sergeant Cole walked through the plaza quietly, checking on families. Lyra followed them, wanting to understand the humans better. They are incredible, she whispered. They do not fear, they do not tire, they do not stop. How do they do it? Ethan looked at her with a small smile. We come from a world that demanded survival, he said. Our planet is harsh. Life there is never easy. You either adapt or die. When you grow up facing impossible odds every day, you learn to fight. That is why we are like this. That is why we came here for you. Lyra nodded slowly, understanding a little more. The humans were not like anyone the Kelvari had known. They were strong, fearless, and relentless, but they were also kind, even gentle, with those they protected. They were a paradox, terrifying to enemies, but a blessing to the helpless. The night passed quietly. In the morning, the Kelvari looked out over the city and saw the humans preparing for another day of battle. Captain Briggs addressed them from the plaza. The Zarn will keep coming, but we will hold. We will protect every person we can. Stand close, stay calm, and trust us. We will not fail you. The Kelvari nodded, their fear now mixed with awe and hope. They began to understand that these humans, Deathworlders from Earth, were not ordinary warriors. They were a force unlike any the galaxy had seen before. And as the Zarn regrouped in the distance, preparing for another attack, the Kelvari realized something they had never thought possible. They might survive this war, not because of themselves, but because of humans. And for the first time since the invasion began, the Kelvari believed in the impossible.